Does this prove that near-death experiences offer us a glimpse into a new reality that exists beyond the grave? And if so, is that reality always filled with light and beauty? Or is it possible that darkness and fear are waiting on the other side? The majority of reported near-death experiences are pleasant, peaceful events filled with light and love. But this was not the case for Howard Storm, who believes he literally went to hell and back and lived to tell the tale. Prior to his near-death experience, Howard Storm had always considered himself to be a free thinker. He was also an avowed atheist. To him, belief in God was absurd. But all that changed during a trip to Paris in 1985. Howard and his wife, Beverly, were getting ready to return home when he began having horrible stomach pains. Storm was diagnosed with a perforation in his small intestine. He was told his condition was urgent and would require surgery within the hour. But that's not what happened. The hours ticked by. Howard and his frightened wife, who spoke no French, could not understand why he had not yet been taken into surgery. The agony of his condition weakened Howard. Knowing death was near, he said goodbye to his wife and slipped off into oblivion.
When I opened my eyes, I saw that I was standing next to my bed, and it seemed impossible because I had been dying just moments before. Then I saw Beverly, my wife, sitting in the chair opposite me on the other side of the bed, and I tried to talk to her.
Everything's okay, I'm here. We can go.
But she acted like she couldn't see me or hear me. So I yelled and screamed at her.
Honey, can you hear me?
Nothing happened. Here I was feeling like I was more alive than I'd ever felt in my life, and she ignored me as if I wasn't there. And then I heard voices calling me from outside the room. These people outside the room were saying, "Hurry up, come with us. We've been waiting for you a long time."
Who are you?
I kept asking them who they were, but they were getting very insistent that I had to come with them, so I left assuming that they were taking me to have my operation. I followed these people who had surrounded me and were leading me into this ever-thickening fog and darkness. I became very afraid, but they insisted that I just go a little bit further into this encircling darkness. They started to push and pull at me, yelling and screaming at me, and I fought back as hard as I could. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds or thousands. I couldn't tell because it was so dark, and to my horror and disgust, they were tearing me apart, gnawing and clawing at me, consuming me. They were laughing and taunting me, and the more they hurt me, the better they liked it. As I lay there in a fetal position on the ground, trying to protect myself from their kicks and their bites and their taunting, I heard a voice say to me, "Pray to God," and I thought, I don't believe in God. And then I heard that voice again and another time. I tried to remember what I had prayed as a child, and it came out all mixed up with the 23rd Psalm and the Pledge of Allegiance and the Lord's Prayer, just little bits of them that I could remember. But the people around me hated any mention of God. The creatures that had been tormenting me retreated far off into the darkness and left me alone for an eternity to consider my life. And somewhere in the pit of despair, I thought about when I was a child and believed in something other than myself. I believed in Jesus. And I called out, "Jesus, please save me," not knowing whether he was real or not. And a faint light appeared into the darkness, and this huge, beautiful being of white light came over me. I was lifted up into this being of light, and I could see that all the wounds in my body were healing in seconds. Never in my life experienced such perfect, unconditional, total love. And I knew absolutely that this was the Jesus that I'd believed in as a child. He took me out of that horrible place that I now know was hell, and we began to approach heaven. With Jesus and the angels that he called to us, we went over my life from the beginning to the end, And it was very disturbing to see so many of the negative things that I'd done in my life. But the thing that made it bearable was that I knew that Jesus and the angels and God loved me, even in spite of the rotten things that I had done with my life, and that I could be forgiven for those things.
Incredible as his near-death experience was, Howard Storm is convinced it was real. And the changes in his life since then further bear this out. Storm turned away from atheism and embraced Christianity. He even went through seminary and became a pastor.
I think the message of the near-death experience is that there is something there other than our physical reality. There is a spiritual realm. I also think that there's the message of God. There is a God there. It's similar to the general revelation that we see in the first chapter of Romans that Paul wrote in the New Testament, that the law of God is written on the hearts of all men. And I think that the near-death experience is bringing that to the person's awareness at the time they're in the process of dying.
I believe that God is trying to communicate with this world. He's trying to touch people's lives in a variety of ways. And one of those ways that He's touched millions of lives is by giving them a glimpse of what lays before them in the afterlife, which we call near-death experiences.
To date, there is no scientific evidence that would allow us to simply explain away the phenomenon of the near-death experience. Perhaps that's why the spiritual message of near-death experiences seems to resonate so strongly with people all over the world. Certainly everyone would like to know what we can experience when we die. Will we be embraced by a beautiful being of light that may be God Himself? Or will we be deceived by an angel of darkness bent on our destruction?